What I'm going to talk about now is a principle I call what it takes. And this is a treatise, a discourse of the four primary aspects of consciousness that someone needs to have to make it to the top of the mountain. How can I become victorious in this journey to God realization? What is the most powerful, the quickest, the fastest way? What do I need to have? And I break it down into four aspects, which I call what it takes. Number one, and these are in order of increasing importance, though they're all close, but they are in increasing importance. Number one is desire. The four are desire, faith, willingness, and obedience. Number one, desire. There has to be this ache, this yearning for God, to be consumed by the flame of God, to be merged in the heart of God, a desire that's stronger than your next breath. Because, again, a universal principle is because we are all created in God's image, by God, as God, therefore the primal force of creation lives in each of us and moves us and acts us at every time. Because of that, the primal force of creation is the energy which makes planets and makes human beings and creates life. And that moves us and uses us all the time. And it's directed by our thought. In other words, whatever you place your focus on, you become and you create. And within that concept, whatever is number one on the list, you always materialize, magnetize, and manifest. This applies to every single human being on the planet. So whatever is your foremost desire, your true heart's desire, you will manifest if all your focus is on that. So it's important to make that to be consumed by God. It has to be more than your next breath. It has to be more than your wife or your husband or your partner, more than your own children, more than your career, more than any dream you have. When the desire is like that, it's insatiable, unquenchable, unsurmountable. It's just, it has you. Then you're golden. So if it's not there, you do what you need to do to get it there. Number two, faith. You need to have within yourself this deep intrinsic knowingness that this is attainable, that I can have this, I can do this. It's not just, religions have done this, and many spiritual teachers do this. Even many masters have done this. They proliferate and grow stronger and stronger in the belief system of human beings, this concept of separateness, that they're there and you're here. And the way society works and the way the human mind works, we get into this, and quite naturally, this adoration and this worship of people who attain great heights, the same way we do with Hollywood movie stars, we do with spiritual luminaries. When they've reached these great heights, we admire them and we adore them, but inside, because of this inherent unworthiness and low self-esteem and this primordial feeling, this delusion of separation, which humans all live in, there's a belief system that I can't be that, I can't have that. And the more we see someone who reaches those great heights, like a Jesus, a Buddha, a Sai Baba, an Amma, a Mother Mary, a Krishna, we see people who reach the pinnacle of spiritual attainment, and then because of that deep-seated feeling of separateness and unworthiness, we separate ourselves even further. And what I'm speaking about is a faith, a knowingness that I can have this. Jesus himself said, "Greater works than these shall all ye men do." Many avatars have spoken, not just me, but many have spoken, have said, the only difference between me and you is that I know that I am God, and you have not deepened in that knowingness yet. So your outer reality depicts that separateness because you don't believe it yet. And that's the process of realization. But the faith part is, I can have this, I can attain this. If he did it, I can do it. And many of the great ones have always said that. Of course you can do this. So there's that knowingness. Number three, willingness. In other words, how far will you go to have it? What would you give up? Would you give up, like in the biblical times, Abraham about to surrender his own son Isaac and plunge a knife into him for God? Would you surrender your career? Would you surrender your wife and children? Would you surrender your very breath, sever a limb? How far would you go? What would you sacrifice and give up to be consumed by that? Now, I'm not saying you have to, or that that's what I'm promoting. I'm talking about a consciousness, this insatiable need to be reunited, feel one with, to have that restored, of knowing that I and my beloved are one, that I and my creator are one. To have that restored and live in that all the time, it's the ultimate. Please believe me, I'll tell you, it's the ultimate, having been on both sides of the fence. But there has to come a point in someone's life, in their evolution, when that willingness is, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And I hearken back to when I first met my master, and the feeling, the love that went through my body, and the current of the God vibration that he conferred into my cells, that I was vibrating, and the tears streaming down my face. I remember the first thought that came to me was, I have to have this. I have to have this experience all the time, or I'd rather be dead. And I loved my life. Ironically, I started my training at the highest point of my life. I had the greatest love affair of my whole life, past or present, and my career was at its peak, at its apex. I was in show business. I was an actor, as many know, and I was at the peak of my success and fame. I had money. I had a gorgeous home. I had everything I wanted. But that one missing piece, I knew there was something missing, and it was that G factor, the God factor. And then when I got a taste of it, sitting in the presence of the master, I just said, that's it. That's the piece I've been looking for my whole life. I have to have that. And as much as I still had attachment to my love, to my career, to my money, my fame, it fell infinitely second to, I have to feel that current running in my veins, and it consumed me. And in my particular case, I did have to give up everything, but that's unique to me. It's happened to many people, but I mean, it's unique for each person is what I meant to say. Everyone doesn't have to give up everything. You have to give up your attachment to it, but not necessarily the things themselves. But again, some do, some don't. Willingness. How far will you go? What would you give to have that? To have God running through your veins, to be merged in God all the time. Fourth factor, obedience. It's a really important one because it's the last bastion of attainment. It's the last hurdle, and it's the last thing to which the ego personality will succumb. Because the mantra, the mission statement of the ego personality is, don't tell me what to do. The mission statement of the soul is, how may I serve you, Lord? They are mutually exclusive and diametrically opposed, and I mean seriously opposed. So the ego structure does not want to be told what to do. It is defiant, it is obstinate, it is belligerent, it is insubordinate, it is arrogant, it is ignorant, it is unwise, though it thinks it is quite the opposite, where the soul just luxuriates in the isness of being one with God. It has nothing to prove, nothing to gain, it doesn't need recognition or esteem or fame or power because it is everything. And so the obedience is the last thing the ego will succumb to. It's the last thing it'll give in on. And that's why it's so critically important. And I see in the people whom I train, when people hit that wall of that don't tell me what to do, and that's usually when they serve their walking papers and I'm out of here, because they don't want to be told what to do. But if you cannot serve the least of your brothers, how can you serve God? The way to become a great leader is to master the art of following. And the way to be one with God and be the ultimate servant, because a true master is a servant, is to be obedient, to be humble and obedient, to serve and obey. It's by getting into the consciousness of serving and obeying that we come in harmony with God and we ingratiate ourselves into the divine, and that's what helps us become trustworthy. And God continues to bestow more grace, more power, more abundance, more everything upon us, the more we become humble, which is selfless. Humility is selfless love. The more we become selfless, less focused on ourself, our selfish wants, more focused on serving God, serving others, and obedient. Yes, how may I serve you and be happy and grateful? Put these four together. Consummate desire, faith, willingness, obedience. That's the formula for self-mastery, for liberation of the soul. Plain and simple.